Hi guys, welcome back to the Insider Outsider podcast. Today I'm a little sick and sorry, I'm just going to be making it so you can't see. There we go. So we can see everything. All right, perfect. So Ahmed, hello. We had some technical difficulties. Our boy Yasir, he came through. All right, Pakistani IT, the best IT.
So are we live on Twitch?
Yeah, we are live and we'll just double check. But yeah, so guys, we today we want to do kind of an overall view on a couple of things. We want to give you some points of
Wait.
discussion on some investments, but we also wanted to pretty much give our opinion on a very good podcast that we recently watched.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was the alexhormozi
Mm-hmm.
and the renowned, second here,
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. So what did you think, Raf?
So guys, I watched this podcast the day it came out about 2 days ago, and Ahmed just watched this, so he has a full refresh of the memory.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
have to say this is probably one of my top five best podcasts ever. Alex Hormozi, if you know anything about the guy, he's very smart when it comes to just pretty much giving everything you have, right? He's a very logical person. So that doesn't mean he doesn't involve emotion and logic. He just goes straight logic. A plus B equals C. That's all he does. He does not do anything else. He does not do A plus B, maybe sometimes with the extra A equals C. He just goes A plus B equals C. And that's the best way I can kind of describe kind of how his logic takes. So he's blunt. And he usually, the blunt is the right answer. So he gives the right answer. It just nobody wants to hear it. It's the most obvious answer, just nobody wants to hear it. They always want to think. He's always about simplifying and just doing the right thing. The problem with that is he's kind of like a robot. So Ahmed, he's kind of
Yes.
like a robot. He has the formula for success, and he's done
Mm.
fantastic. However, just because he has the formula for success does not mean that he exactly knows what he's doing. And he knows exactly what he's doing for finances and for business, but does he know what he's doing in life? And I think, kind of watching the Tony Robinson video, I kind of think he definitely may have got a different point of view. For example, he's mentioned before that he doesn't want to have kids, or that right now is not the time to have kids for him. Right now it's all work. And he also mentioned that he got a cat. His girlfriend at the time, I don't think she was his wife at the moment, but pretty much his wife now, got a cat, and the cat loved Alex Hormozi more than her, so she was getting jealous. But then also, Alex was just chilling with the cat all the time, right? So he loved the animal, everything was chill, but he said it definitely took away time that he was going to be focusing on his business. So once the cat passed away, they decided not to get another cat because they just wanted to
Mm.
focus on work. And then in this video, Tony Robinson also brought up the point that he should have kids, that he would be a fantastic father, that, that's something that he could definitely give him more fulfillment in life. And I think,
Why do you think that? Did he bring up the concept of having a child too?
yeah. Okay, did you, so did you, you may have
Yeah.
been missed out on one portion,
What
but
he thought, this my reasoning, and I'd like to see your reasoning. My reasoning is that Tony Robbins is less of a robot than Alex Ramosi, and I don't mean to,
way
take
less of a
the
robot.
value. Um, he in the video he expresses you shouldn't only pursue entrepreneurship or getting money from a perspective of meeting your needs. You should go beyond and find a way to serve others. And he describes like a deep ethos of actually the best mountain to climb uh, is the one that you end up serving other people. You die in service of others. And Alex Ramosi kind of uh, he did it out of necessity and drive and ambition, but he didn't have that extra layer where the way I see it is that you need a balance of the two, of structure, a physical structure, and then a psychological aspect. So Tony Robbins has mastered both. Alex Ramosi has mastered one. Basically, if you're going into a fight, you need to have the spirit of a fighter, and you also need to be prepared physically. Alex Ramosi is prepared physically, yet he's not as mentally prepared as Tony Robbins. I
I
see
think
the warrior.
that's very,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, he has formulations, right? So formulations are very good. But maybe even watching this, I'm sure Alex Hormozi has fulfillment in his life. He's married very happily. I gotta say, his relationship with Layla is beautiful.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
there was definitely points where it looks like that he is looking for the fulfillment, because you get very successful, and then you realize money is not everything, and you
Yeah.
realize and it's one thing to say money isn't everything, and it's the other thing to have so much money, and now you can say money is not everything, right? And so he's
Mm.
worked his butt off. He's definitely created a lot of success, and now that has led him to the situation where he's in today, where now he's probably like, what's the next challenge or what's the next operation in his life, right? Like he's very blunt, right? Even when it comes to his own family, right? And recently, also his mother passed away. I don't know if you know if you knew this. And Axel Mosey actually, gave a little bit of a tears on stage while he was in a seminar. Obviously, definitely something that is portrayed that you could tell how much he misses his mom, right? Because unfortunately she passed away very suddenly. It was not expected, and I guess that always puts like kind of when somebody gets a sadness like that, I think it puts a lot of things into prospect. Like you're thinking about, oh, what the hell am I doing with my life? What is actually there, right? If somebody's gonna pass away like that, and I think that.
There's a detail there that I'd like to add on to what
Uh-huh.
we were saying.
Yeah. So with that whole proportion of how Axel Mosey saw one person in his family pass away to the position where he's in now, he has everything. So maybe he's not feeling as fulfilled as he can. Again, guys, we're not saying he's not fulfilled. We're just giving observation from this video. But the way that Tony
Mhm.
Robinson was described fulfillment, for the first time on screen, I actually saw Alex being outdoed by Tony, by actually like another logical person. Because Tony Robinson, the reason why he's so good at what he does is because he has the way of using logic in such an emotional state where it just makes sense, and he's mastered that. So he's mastered human psychology in that portion, and because of that, he's able to conflict people's feelings together about certain subjects, such as like why I brought up the point where Alex Harmozy, he mentioned him, he should have kids. If he's looking for fulfillment, there's nothing more fulfillment than providing life and then teaching somebody all the stuff that you love to do.
I really like what you said.
Mm-hmm.
There's some probably three key takeaways that I'd like to open up and express further or magnify. One of them being the moment in which Alex Ramosi kind of expresses this emotional expression about his mother. And what I see and what I observe within people that are successful is that they have an intensity. And they say there's like a concept of love and war. Your capacity to love is a reflection of your capacity to go to war, and entrepreneurship is war. There's a lot of resilience that you require, much like a military resilience to express this. And so what I mean by this is that there's like a quotient of intensity that I see within highly successful people, and I see this in my buddy Rav all the time. He has an aptitude, a capacity to go higher bandwidth, or a capacity to express oneself on a deep and meaningful way. And uh, the magnitude in which you could do that. I'm trying to get into the second aspect is kind of you could communicate it through very very sharp linguistics. You know what I mean? You could express it through communicating with words and language, but language could only get you so far, and that's when Tony Robbins kind of is at an advantage. I wouldn't say he's better or whatever, because success is subjective, and it depends on what you want and how what you perceive success as. But Tony Robbins is so profound in his ability to not only speak, communicate at a high level, but to tap into the spiritual and emotional side of and the psychology of the person he talks to. One of the things that I one of my passions is really close friends start to sync up, and you could read this in the literature, like empiricized literature, not just like random. Um, what I'm trying to say is, you begin to almost sync up. You could almost guess what your friend is going to say because you've not only communicated to this human being, you've almost connected to them on a beyond communication level. And Tony Robbins has this profound way of bringing out the best in people. And obviously, Alex Hermosi is, I think, if I was in a room with him and understanding him from what I've seen through his content, he's not a low intensity person. If he is going to give you something, he's going to be generous. If he's going to do something, it's going to be of high, moral and he's an intellectual that I think is to observed and learn from.
Ahmed, very much agreed. So yeah, if you guys haven't watched the video, I highly recommend it because it truly is a fantastic video to watch. And again, you never really see Alex Hormozi be questioning what he knows. Usually, he's a guy who knows it all, right? That is very much the person he portrays, and not that it's like an act because he truly is very knowledgeable in what he knows. But when compared to even somebody like Tony Robbins, you just realize the level of effect that Tony Robbins can have on anyone, right? So yeah, one of my dreams is to meet the guy and let him to diagnose me. You know what I'm saying? But no, I think he's
You mean
fantastic at
Tony?
business.
I
Yeah, of
think
course.
both of them. I'd love to meet both of
Oh, yeah,
them.
of course. Alexhormozi is a hero of mine. I have so many quotes. I don't know if there's any in the back here from our boy, but all over my wall, I have a lot of post-its of various things Alex Hormozi has said. And just what he's done because
Mhm.
it's very very impressive in a day and age like this, right? To be very blunt, how to get it done. And Toby Robinson, again, just as a speaker or somebody that I aspire to be like, he's definitely a guy up there. But yeah, let's change up from the subject a little bit, guys. But yeah, highly recommend you watch. And we're going to talk about robotics and a little bit of the future investments of the world. So Ahmed brought a very big question to me today, and he said, "Hey, what do you think about this company or this company or this company?" And we had a back and forth and a good conversation with it. So yeah, Ahmed, do you want to start off with a little bit of what your ideas are? And guys,
So
we're going to be looking at it. We're kind of speaking about not ideas of today, but ideas of 5 to 10 years from now, just to put it in context.
I think that the basic building block of reality is information, and you could, and I've seen this. I'm not a physics educated in physics or anything like that, but you see that reality is at its basis information, and and I learned I like to I want to add a layer to this by expressing something I've recently tried to think more closely of. Proximity is power. And what you want to do when you're creating networks of values, for yourself in a synergistic manner, in a recursive manner, you want to be close to people that are either consuming a lot of information about stuff that is of up to date AI and so on, and are constantly recursively building themselves. And one of my many friends that I have, that we love to talk about economically related and entrepreneurial context conversation. He asked me for some advice. He said, "What do you think of SMCI?" And I've never heard of this, so I just Googled it and I found out that they are in the chip manufacturing. And I asked Rav, and Rav kind of he told me how much information he kind of had a lot of context to provide, and he gave me some insights about the business structure within chip manufacturing, the importance of top down integration in business systems. I haven't explained that. Could you explain? Well, we've talked about this before, but can you explain why middlemen within the context of business are something you would try and get rid of as a
Yeah.
as a as a business with cash flow
So
and so on?
yeah. So Ahmed actually first initially on this podcast many episodes ago brought up the fact that, hey, what do we think about companies that are top down integrated, right? And the terminology is actually something I never actually knew until he said it. I'm very happy he said it because it's one of my favorite words now, to be honest. So the idea is this: imagine you're a farmer. Okay, so if you're a farmer, you're producing fruit and producing this and this and grains, and you're selling it to the local market, or you're selling it most likely to a big company, and the company is taking it, turning it into products, and then using those products to make money, right? So in this situation, only thing you're doing is farming, and then of course selling it to the big company, right? We can think of something like this, like French fries from like a potato farmer for McDonald's, right? But what you wanted to try to do is, the more money you have, the more investments you can make. You maybe not just want to be the only person who's just farming. You might also want to be selling your own products, right? And that's the idea where, hey, you get one idea and you're able to convert it, and now you have many sources of things you're able to do, not just selling. I only thing I'm doing is being a potato farmer. Now you'll be the potato farmer, but you'll also be the one creating the French fries, because of course you provide yourself the product, you take out the middleman, and now you sell that product. Usually you can do that as a substantial cost decrease because you're no longer having a middle person there to pay. So at this point, the consumer benefits because since they're getting it directly from farmer to in-house, they have it cheaper. And the producer also benefits because guess what? Now they have an increased size of business. So that's like a very basic idea. And so a company that me and Ahmed really like, that we're super in together, is a companies like Alphabet, which a lot of people just know as Google, right? And you can think of it like this. So right now in the chip race, right, when it comes to Supermicro or when it comes to Nvidia, or even you could even put Intel into this box as well, right? A lot of
CPUs, GPUs, and
yeah,
more.
exactly. Any of the kind of the industry leading technology for these AI AI data centers, AI products, all this stuff. So when you have Google makes their own TPUs in house. What does that mean? That means they design, they produce, and they utilize their own chips in order to help their own AI grow. And obviously, their TPUs are not as strong as NVIDIA's GPUs. However, they can put them into clusters, and now they have the same power, even more than NVIDIA's product. And remember, NVIDIA is a brand name product, which means is they have high levels of margin because they can sell their stuff for a lot of money. So if you're buying NVIDIA's GPUs or CPUs right now, you're paying the premium price because first of all, everybody wants their hands on it and there's not enough of them. So what happens? The price goes up, right? And you can see this with RAM right now. RAM has doubled in price because now people are buying RAM at large quantities because they're trying to now produce even better and better AI. So how does this
It's not only
benefit?
people, it's a combination of institutions and people.
Exactly. So now how does Google benefit from this?
Institutions, I think institutions are more so the ones driving the price up. But yeah,
Exactly. But because they're the big buyers, right? But even before this, like a lot of people forget. But do you know the reason why NVIDIA GPU CPUs were getting really popular? It wasn't because of AI. It was because of Ethereum. Because people were using it to mine Ethereum. So remember,
exactly.
NVIDIA's GPUs, CPUs, sorry, or it is GPUs.
Yes,
No,
GPUs.
yeah, were very
So
popular before the
I think
AI.
AMD is a company that has
Yeah,
the CPU stuff.
exactly. And so that's the reason you guys can't forget this. So before it was industrial sized, it was all consumer based, but people were still buying it at high cost because they were using it to mine Ethereum. And then remember, and then the Bitcoin, and then after Bitcoin, the computer revolution happened with AI. And now a lot of companies are buying these in masses. So it's very hard for a regular person to just get it. So now let's take a look at this over the extended period of time. Now, if you have a company and you need to develop an AI and you can only buy from Nvidia, you're buying a high up price. Obviously, they're probably getting more of a discount on it because they're buying bulk, but you're still paying high prices because everybody wants this. They can sell it to anyone. But for
Margins. We're talking
exactly,
margins here
exactly. But Google doesn't need to pay those high prices because they developed
because
their own, and that's where the companies that you want to invest in. So when anybody ever brings up to me these ideas of small companies or what do you think, I always am a little bit on the heavier side. If I'm investing in a company, I want to see a company that has better than one type of investment, and that's because if you start a company, most of the time because you're so small, you only be focused on one thing. But when you're having a big company or you want to invest your money, you might want to invest into something like Google. The reason why I bring up again Google into this equation is if Google is able to produce, manufacture all these chips, their AI will be a lot better than any other company that is reliant on a third party source, a middleman to get their product. And so those guys are restrained. The height of their restraint is how fast they can get get those GPUs from a different company, versus Google has no height. They can keep going as long as they're able to still manufacture those chips. And so that's the reason, and those are the companies that I'm investing in. So a lot of people ask me, "Do you invest in Nvidia?" I at this moment in time do not, just because if Google's chips become better than it, if another company's chips become better than it, then Nvidia kind of becomes obsolete. I'm sure that's not going to happen. Sorry guys, my ringer just keeps going off and on, but I'm sure that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I still want to invest in the company that if one thing goes under, they still have 100 different sources. So let's talk about Google sources. Do you know
what's
YouTube?
difficult? Google, yeah.
Yeah, Ahmed, have you
The-
ever heard of this
you,
small
what,
company
what
called
he's
Google?
describing here,
Yeah,
I feel like what the viewer needs right now is because you're unpacking all the practical, not the theoretical, and it's difficult to express the theoretical and practical simultaneously. So I'll just reiterate the theoretical, and then you can continue expressing the practical. What I mean by this is like Rav has a way of looking at complex systems, such as companies, and he looks at them from top down integrated to middleman oriented ones. What he means by that is that within when you're like a soccer team, the weakest link is going to show up at the stress test. And if you have middlemen, that's the weakest link. What Google has done is become very versatile, and Rav was just about to express the not the theoretical, the practical. They
oh
have
yeah,
ad
Ahmed, that was
revenue
a very good
for
way
Google
to
YouTube.
that was a very good way to
Yeah, I
describe it.
just
Yeah.
mm, mm,
So now we'll go into why we're going to talk about the actual practical use of Google. If Google's
yes.
TPUs become obsolete, Nvidia is just so much better than them. That is okay because Google does not get all their revenue from Gemini. Where do they get their revenue from,
Mhm.
Ahmed? We're talking about YouTube.
You froze.
We're talking about Google
You froze
Drive.
there.
I'm frozen. I see the video. It looks.
Versatility.
Yeah. Do you see?
It's like a little bit, but you're back. You're back now. You're back. You're back.
Okay.
It froze
Very
like a
interesting.
millisecond.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you talk about Google, you have YouTube, you have Google Drive, you have Gemini, you have all these companies, all these data center companies, every single company, Waymo, like all these guys are in every single industry, software, anything you could think
So
of.
this, if you were to describe AI in three different categorizations that make up the whole, you would say database,
Mm-hmm.
you would say GPU compute chips,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you'd say energy.
Yes.
So Google has two of the three,
They
as
also
far as
have
I
the
know.
third.
Do
They
they have
also,
energy?
yes, they're building nuclear power plants. Actually, funny enough, so they're
That
like
that is versatile
exactly.
compared to Nvidia, which has
Hmm.
one.
Exactly.
And not
And
only that, that one is reliant on a TSMC China
exactly.
Taiwan situation.
Exactly. Now, what happens if TSMC can no longer produce this product? They
Right.
have to find different manufacturers, right? And I'm sure they're working on that as we speak, right? Because, you don't want all your eggs in one basket. But again, what do you want to be on the edge of? Do you want 50-50 chance or do you want something that's very, very certain? Even if Google fails the
Yeah.
AI race, they have ad business. They have all these different sources of business that only one part of their business goes away. They still have a tremendous amount of revenue coming from different sources. However, a lot of other companies don't. So when I invest in a company, I look for this diversification because I want to see a company that is utilized in every person's life. If you look at a lot of people, Google plays more of a role in almost every single business than you would realize. And a lot of
Gemini
people,
is amazing.
Gemini's in
The
everything.
products are
Exactly. But Ahmed, do you know any friends who have phones such as like a Samsung or like Huawei or like a Google Pixel? Yeah,
yes.
outside of the Google
Yes. I
Pixel,
mean,
people don't know this. Android is owned by Alphabet. So the company Android, so Android software is all owned by Google. So Google has this tremendous amount of monopoly of what people they utilize their stuff, their Gmail, everything, and they can make tremendous amount of ad revenue or whatever revenue they want from these sorts of businesses. Another
mhm.
businesses like this also that I really like is Amazon and also Microsoft, right? And that's why a lot of people don't like bigger companies. They want to invest in something that's going to have crazy amount of growth, but the crazy amount of growth is also needed when you also have the revenue to prove it, right? And that's why I
Mhm.
invest into companies such as this and less into the company like Nvidia.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really like what you're saying because you're highlighting something that I feel like the viewer can digest better if they understood the time, money, value aspects of what they're trying to extract. When you have ads, it's similar to real estate. Like downtown real estate is more expensive. For what reasoning? Because it has the highest foot traffic, and real estate is a physical expression of attention. Attention can be broken down into a smaller unit of value, but you could accumulate a bunch of attention and have real value proposition. So when you're assessing Alphabet, you not only have a huge user base, you not only have the attention required to create time, money, value. You're versatile as hell. You don't only lead in TPU. By the way, they're really good at making TPUs, clusters of tinier chips. They run the databases, the pictures that you have on Google Drive. Those ones are driving the price of RAM up, and they're able to monetize the attention they get in general, convert the traffic into real tangible value. When you look at that complex system, there's very little thermal throttling. There's very little expenditures that are expressed through middlemen. It's top-down integrated. It's comprehensively resilient. So when you look at NVIDIA, there's a lot of red flags. And not only that, if you look in the past, historically, the companies that performed very, very well in the dot-com bubble were then replaced. Like, there's no more phones with buttons. The BlackBerry was, revolutionized for a point in time. It was the number one leader or whatever. But then its time came, and new ones ended up, overtaking it. I think Nvidia sits in a similar chair,
Mm-hmm.
but Google's someone you would pay attention more so, and its resilience in
Well,
comparison
I'm
to
I'm
Nvidia.
saying this,
That's
all
what
right?
I think.
Remember, there was a little while ago, less than a year ago, where everybody said Google's done. AI's killing Google. Google's gonna get
Mhm.
destroyed. Wait a second, guys.
Mhm. No.
ChatGPT, the name brand of AI. Do you know Apple, one of the biggest companies in history, is now going to use Siri powered by Gemini? So Apple, who has this tremendous amount of legroom where they can choose any company would be. Think about it. How amazing would it be for your company if you could use your software in Siri? Every company would love it. But only one company won. And this recently happened. Now, guess what, guys? Gemini is going to be powering Siri for the next generation. This is confirmed,
I want to
100%
ask.
done.
I want to ask you a question.
Uh huh.
I want to ask you a question in retrospect to something I heard online. I
Mm-hmm.
like to stay updated on vibe coding and where vibe coding is going. And one of the guys expressed this idea that the larger entities within AI are going to actually just consume all the smaller entities. And so vibe coding will be profitable up until a certain point before the big people, the Googles and the Magnificent Seven, the bigger companies within the AI realm just consume them. And so what it sounds like is Apple's kind of giving in and letting Google run the actual interface. And so Apple has to pay, I think. Like
Yes.
from what
Yeah.
I from what I heard, it's a
That's
similar pattern,
I'm
right?
actually searching it up right now on how much Apple is about to pay Gemini because they're going to be paying Google to utilize their AI in their thing. So they're going to be paying Google $1 billion every single year to use Gemini models with Siri, and that is base model. So they'll be using even more and more models as it's growing, and they're going to be released in 2026. So this is about to happen, and everybody already knows exactly how efficient Gemini is with this, as it's rated
Mhm.
one of the top actual AIs that you can utilize in this playing field. So
So they got, in my perspective, they got consumed, but they haven't been consumed under the taxonomy of mergers and
yeah, because think about it.
unpack.
And
I have a
Apple did a
question.
really really
The
good.
mergers and acquisitions.
I'm going to tell you one thing that's really good. Okay, Gemini,
Yeah,
Apple has a lot of money, and they could get endless amounts of money. They have such a good track record of making money. So one thing I want people to understand.
obviously to a certain reasonability. Yeah, like
Yeah,
there's a certain.
yeah, but I'm very certain if they wanted to raise $1 trillion, they definitely could. All right, but all I'm going to say is this:
Mhm.
why I'm bringing this point up is Apple could have bought any company they wanted. Do you understand what that means? That means they could straight up buy OpenAI. They could straight up buy Perplexity or any of these other companies because they have enough cash to do it. They're huge. They have
Yeah,
so
but
much
they
cash.
chose what?
They chose to work with Google instead. Why did they choose this? Because they realize where they have been beaten. They have consistently been outperformed by every AI model. Their AI was not keeping up. Their AI powered tools are garbage. I'm sorry to tell you this, Apple. I love your product, but man, those AI tools that you're giving me, this are the playground thing where you can build like pictures, garbage. But they realized they're falling behind on the AI race. So they decided, hey, instead of us, we have a product that everybody wants. So instead of us spending billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars to try to perfect an AI when we're getting destroyed right now by all these competition, why don't we just allow the competition to use us? They become the
You
middleman.
focus on. You got to focus on your edge.
Exactly.
I
And
mean,
they know it was an
there's
AI.
only so much money you're willing to lose
Yeah.
to another company
Yeah,
before you decide
because
to
remember,
join them.
like
If you
the
can't beat them,
Apple,
you join them.
yeah, like the Apple headset. I forgot what it's called. Like it did not perform, right?
And well, flopped. Yeah, I remember
Exactly.
seeing
And so it's
lots of
because exactly. But now one thing I will say about Apple,
merger. I
Apple,
want you to unpack mergers and acquisitions and why they're beneficial to
I'll
the
get to
company that
I'll
consumes.
get to that point. But I just want to
But yeah,
give you guys a position.
on your point here,
Yeah.
yeah,
On my point here, a very good way to say it. On my point here, guys, Apple is always late. They are never early, all right? A company comes out with a foldable phone, Apple doesn't have a foldable phone yet. What
why?
app
Why is that? Because
I'll tell you, I've noticed this consistently with Apple. Everybody who's an Apple fanboy always knows this,
but
okay?
before he died,
Uh-huh.
Steve Jobs, I think they're really
He was
really good.
very perfect. And one of the reasons why I think Series AI did not get developed is because Steve Jobs died. Because they did the acquisition and then he passed away, unfortunately, from cancer.
Yeah,
But
yeah, like
yeah, so there was not enough. So because Steve is like incredibly like bro, this guy
special.
is an
He's
entrepreneur that was
leadership.
unlike anybody. Yeah, you gotta remember, guys.
Yeah,
He did not just create one, but creating $1 billion company is very very difficult, right? And now it's $1 trillion company. But he did it again. He did it before. Pixar was actually the first company that made him a billionaire. So he got kicked out of Apple. He made a production studio, and the reason why he made Pixar
yes,
is to showcase
but
his
it was for
software.
exactly. It wasn't
Yeah.
for animation purposes. Yeah, I've seen this is quite
Yeah.
interesting. I like.
And guess what? That company made him $1 billion. So this guy became a
Mm.
billionaire after getting kicked out of Apple and then coming back to Apple because they realized they needed him. So Steve Jobs is a great entrepreneur, right? But if the visionary isn't there, then it kind of stumbles a little bit. But now here's the beautiful part again with all of this aspects, and again like the same thing that we're going into. Google is not only doing the AI race, they're dominating the AI race. And again, even if you take out the entire AI process from Google, they still have such big margins on every one of their businesses that it does not make sense. And so you could, like I told you, Apple, as this guy was talking about mergers and acquisitions, they're very good for companies because now you can swallow up a whole company, produce that in your own database, and now you have an edge.
What does
That
it do, what does it do to the papers, the accountant papers when it comes to stock pricing and so on?
Mhm.
Like
Well,
the evaluation gets affected in a way that's unique, and I feel like that's what I really wanted you to answer.
Well, it's very there's actually a lot of ways it goes, right? Sometimes people are usually what happens is, like let's just say a stock's $23, they might offer them $25 per stock or per share just going into it. It's very dependent, right? If it's a private company, it's different, obviously, because then only private investors who are in that business are going to benefit from this. Like there's 100 different ways. What exactly are you referring to? I want to hear what you think.
So, from what I've seen and what I could just summarize without going into the jargon, the financial jargon, is that when a bigger entity acquires a smaller entity, it's usually to the benefit of the big entity. And so the smaller company gets to have a nice exit, but on paper, when it comes to the evaluation of the larger company, it's it's such a positive um, value proposition to that shift from prior to acquiring. It just makes the books look way better to the perceived investor or the perceived person that's looking at it.
Yeah, I could see that.
And
That's a very good way to take on things, right? And again,
you know the
like
game Slithario? You know that little worm where you
yeah, we get
you're
bigger and
supposed
bigger
to
the more
eat
you
a
eat.
little. And what I see is, regardless of how companies pivot, whether they're acquired or not acquired, the game of bigger entities consuming smaller entities, it's going to take shape and form, kind of like the Slithario game. And what we're seeing right now is Google's rounding up all the little worms and squeezing. And Apple might burst, who knows?
Well, you know,
Because AI is a huge real estate. It's huge.
but
It's
here's
not
the
a
thing. Here's
it's
the thing.
not a
Here's the thing.
small amount to say. It's not a small amount of
Here's
real
the thing, though,
estate
Ahmed.
to give up to.
I agree and disagree. So, the reason why, again, why Google's AI division is very good is because they bought DeepMind, and that was a merger and acquisition, as Ahmed said, right? The usual benefit
Interesting.
of being a big company is you have so much, you have cash, so you can buy competition. You don't need to become competition, right? Apple, in my opinion, is always going to be Apple. So Apple will always have a brand name to it. They're always known as a high-end smartphone. And even though, remember, Samsung, guys, I hate to say it, they're always ahead on technology. That doesn't mean the technology
Yes.
works, right? They always try this and that, and then sometimes it's really bad, sometimes really good. The thing that Apple does is they wait for something to get really good. That's something that they know is liked, and then they add it, like the fingertip sensor, right? Remember the fingertip sensor or the Face ID. Samsung and Android phones had this decades, not decades, sorry, but like generations before iPhones. But it was because it was
Yes.
unreliable technology. And so then what Apple does is perfect the technology and then they release it. That's what they do. And Android's more of like, oh, then send out the newest thing, send out the newest thing, even if it's not the most proficient. Now,
Rav is a value buyer, and when he's making an assessment about Samsung or Apple,
mhm,
he understands the social value that Apple brings.
mhm.
Right?
And
The
imagine
value
this.
proposition
This,
is about the green.
yeah,
You know the green bubble you
yeah,
get
yeah.
when you get an Android
Exactly,
message.
exactly. You exactly right. But this is what I
Exactly. Yeah.
need to. This is
But
what I want people to understand.
technology wise,
Yeah, I am very
Samsung's
happy
what.
that Apple has decided to take a backseat in AI race because this is how I think about it. If you had a multi-billion-dollar company, Ahmed, right, and you have a product that everybody wants, all right, and now there's this new sector of new products that are being built that are just they're in a completely different division, right? You have to spend lots of money on what R&D, all right, research and development. You have to spend a lot of money, and guess what?
Yeah.
When people are literally spending hundreds of billions of dollars, it's a lot of money. So wait a second. All Apple needs to do is they pay Gemini $1 billion. They pay Google $1 billion to use their model, and
Mhm.
Google is the entire person flipping the bill for $100 billion.
I get it.
You have the
There
best
is
of the best
there's a
software
dilation.
In your phone.
Specific.
Mhm.
There's a specific
Because Amit,
dilation.
it's do you remember the
There's a
rule?
numer.
Amit, I'm gonna
There's
bring up
a
your
Yeah.
own argument against you. Okay, are you ready? I'm about to flip the script a little
No,
bit.
no,
All right?
I'm not disagreeing with
No, no,
you,
no.
but
I know
you're
you're not
correct.
disagree. I just mean in a fun context. You always
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me about a certain rule. All right, something that
Hmm.
benefits everybody. So what happens when two people decide to join forces?
Arms race, game theory.
No, a game theory, exactly. The game theory for Apple and Google is that Google is going to flip all of this money, all these bills to perfect their Gemini model to make it better than
Mhm.
competition, and Apple sits on the sidelines to enjoy the profits by not doing anything. Their phones become better, their software becomes better, all of their stuff gets better. They get to research and develop the stuff that works for them, while they're getting the
Mhm.
best of the best AI model, and they're not doing anything.
what's interesting is what I was going to bring up to complement this was a scenario I saw play out, like a theoretical scenario, and had to do with like designing road infrastructure. And what the mathematical output was, if you add more roads to the system, you actually decrease efficiency. There's a certain point where you add, and what it expresses is the concentration of power or ownership. But within game theory, there's this thing called transgression, and it's an aspect of game theory that doesn't compute or translate over to the road analogy. There's a road analogy where if you were to disperse the roads in an empirical fashion that would benefit everyone in the context of getting where they want to get, if you added more roads, it would ruin things. You would think the opposite, right? Add more roads, you get home quicker. What we're describing is much like the roads are dispersed, or you add more roads. If you make one road, you make it Google, and everyone uses it. It's an efficiency. Rather than everyone trying to make small, solar panels, why don't we just get one person to make a huge solar panel, so that that we don't have any productivity wasted in the context of economic means. And what you brought up was like, this is actually a good thing, and I agree with you. But it's a good thing up to a certain extent, right? There always has to be there has to be some balance. Like if there were a monopoly, it wouldn't be very fun. Trust that it would not be something. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And game theory suggests that you're not the only player. Everyone, and you have to like lean on even someone that you would see as adversary.
The only thing I can say to this is something else I see is Samsung builds the phones screens for the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Samsung, which is a direct competition of Apple.
Yeah, they create the LCDs, the special LCD
Exactly.
ones. Yeah.
So they do it because why? Because
They're not
they're
LCDs anymore. They're like some name or something.
yeah, and it's because if you've ever seen TVs, if you've ever seen anything, the best of the best screens are always Samsung. They always are
So it
Samsung.
looks like it's looking like when you look at the companies, Samsung, Google, and Apple. Apple looks like it's kind of short.
Well,
It's kind of a middleman.
I think again, Apple is the name brand. It's like the same reason why people buy Louis Vuitton versus just getting something that is the exact same quality. It just doesn't say Louis Vuitton on it.
During economic surpluses, people can have the ability to make financial mistakes.
I agree, but I disagree as well. I
Well,
worked at a phone
I heard
store.
this. I heard this from you.
I don't know why people on iPhones are
Yeah,
so crazy. It's stupid. People came to buy iPhones on a plan that's so expensive. They didn't care about the price. They just wanted the phone. They just want the phone. Like, okay, yeah, whatever,
just
whatever.
give me it. Just give me it. I'll
Just give me,
loan.
give
I'll
me, give me, give
future
me.
buy it.
All right. There were people. I don't even know what goes on in these people's heads. Okay, one generation to another generation, iPhone is no
You're
difference.
not
These guys came
you're
in
not
every
supposed
year.
to.
These guys came in every single year, and what because they still owed $1,000 on the phone, they didn't care. They paid it off and they bought the new phone every single year. I'm like, yo man, what's wrong with this guy?
Let me explain this. If you were to draw a perfect scenario, let's say we distribute the value of currency. Everyone gets the same amount of money all simultaneously. You get rid of all the billionaires. You give them the exact same money as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what would happen?
Yeah,
You
they.
break the concept of economy. Economy is basis is someone has and someone doesn't. And so you're frustrated at these people. Like, why aren't you working within your best interest? But they provide the chaos
Mm-hmm.
that you're able to use to create order in your life.
Yeah.
The reason that there's money to be made in the stock market or any investment is that there's a losing side.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the losing side is not, appreciated. And I think we should appreciate those people that go buy the iPhone
Yeah.
because they're helping you achieve
And they still
financial
do it.
freedom.
I'll
They're
just tell you, like some people, like you ever heard of people who like they know that they're wasting so much money, but they're unwilling to change their lifestyle. Unwilling is the same for iPhones. It's just something about the iPhones, man. All right, people just need to have iPhones, and they just need to have this.
Rav,
They just need to
what's beautiful about democracy
have this.
in the current or
Beautiful.
capitalism, democracy, and so on?
All right, let's
It's,
save
it's,
this viewer for another time. I do have to get going. I'm
you're right.
very sorry about
Just
that.
just to tie this off, so I don't leave them on a cliffhanger.
Okay, go for it. I'm good.
Um, there's a thing called social mobility. You could get richer and get poor. You could actually gain and react. You could become fulfilled through gaining financially or winning, climbing a hill of any sort. But democracy allows for social mobility, which means you could change from poor, middle to rich. And if you were to create a system in which everyone is actually equal under, what that democracy preaches, like everyone's equal under the law and whatever. But what you would do is you would create a system in which everyone has the same this everything everyone has the same shit, like
Mm-hmm.
communism. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
And communism is horrendous. Guess why?
Why?
It's the people that wouldn't buy those iPhones. They wouldn't put themselves into the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone doesn't do that, Rav, there is no social mobility.
Mm-hmm.
You're not able to actually change your financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, like within the complex system that we exist economy today, I just want to say that the chaos is to be appreciated. The chaos of people making financial decisions that are wrong allow for social mobility. Allow for people that who want to put energy in
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. To actually
succeed.
succeed.
Have that. Yeah.
A very good context there. We'll go into that in the next episode, guys. But again, thank you very much. It was a solid episode.
Watching.
I'm gonna appreciate you always, buddy. You have a great rest of your day, guys. See you later. Bye bye.